So hello students, I am Shatabdi Acharya from Vedang Institute of Technology. In the earlier videos we were discussing about Lewis dot structure, but Lewis dot structure had some drawbacks, like it could not explain the actual structure of the molecule. Okay, so from Lewis dot structure we only came to know about electronic arrangement around the atoms, or like how the corner atoms are arranged in the central or around the central atom, right? So it gave no information about the exact structure of the atom. So therefore, to overcome the drawbacks of Lewis dot structure, we have valence bond theory or VBT, commonly known as VBT, given by Sidgwick and Powell. So according to VBT, first of all, okay, valence bond theory, right? So basically it talks about the bonding involved in the valence orbital. Fair enough, valence orbitals are the outermost orbitals and they are only involved in bonding. The penultimate shells or the penultimate orbitals have nothing to do with the bonding of the atom. Therefore, the various postulates of valence bond orbital or valence bond theory are, first of all, covalent bond is formed by overlapping of orbitals. Okay, so ionic bond was formed by sharing of electrons, loss or gain of electrons, and covalent bond was formed by sharing of orbitals or sharing of electrons. Now how this sharing is done? Basically when we had 4 orbitals, right, s, p, d, f. So when these 4 orbitals came together, they overlapped among themselves. Okay, they formed, or by overlapping of orbitals they shared electrons, and by that we say a covalent bond is formed. Okay, so covalent bond is formed by overlapping of orbitals, and only those orbital overlap which have half filled electrons. Okay, half filled electrons means each orbital is having, suppose 1 electron, the other orbital is having 1 electron. These orbitals overlap among themselves and here sharing of electrons takes place. Therefore, the overlapping orbitals must be half filled in order to undergo a covalent bond. Next, overlapping must be less than 50%. Why? Because if the overlapping exceeds 50%, then the distance between their nucleus will increase. As a result, repulsion will start. Okay, so therefore the overlapping must be less than 50%. The extent of overlapping decides the strength of the bond. Okay, the extent of overlapping, like how strong or how greater is the extent of overlapping. If the extent of overlapping is more, strength of covalent bond is more, and therefore we say stronger is the covalent bond. Next is overlapping orbitals must have same signs. What do you mean by same sign? We know orbitals are 3-dimensional, like electrons are spread out in a 3-dimensional structures and electrons moves in a wave-like manner, right? So basically sign does not mean actual the positive or negative sign, it means the crest or the trough. The crest is represented by a positive sign and the trough is represented by a negative sign. So sign of orbital basically is determined by the waves. For example, if p orbital shape is dumbbell, then it is having 2 lobes, right? This one is the upper lobe, this one is the downward lower lobe. The upper lobe is given a positive sign, the lower is given a negative sign. Similarly, if I am saying d orbital is double dumbbell, if one is positive, the other lobe is negative. If the another lobe is positive, the opposite lobe is negative. So this way we decide the signs of the lobes. Now, based on the type of overlapping, we have various types of covalent bonds. Okay, depending upon the type of overlapping. For example, what do you mean by type of overlapping? One is head-on overlapping. Okay. Basically, here we will be dealing with various ways by which overlapping can take place. If the overlapping is taking place head to head, head-on overlapping, then it results in the formation of sigma bond. If the overlapping is parallel or lateral or sidewise, it forms pi bonds. So we have basically 2 types of covalent bond, one is sigma bond, one is pi bond. When the overlapping is happening head to head, then it is called sigma bond. When it is happening sidewise, then it is called pi bond. So if we try to visualize this in a p orbital, okay, for example, consider this as a p orbital. It is having two lobes, one upward lobe, one positive lobe, one downward lobe. So this is also another p orbital with two lobes similarly. So if, okay, another important thing, we consider the internuclear axis as the z axis. So if these two orbitals are approaching along the z axis, there will be head on overlapping, okay, head of this and head of this, they overlap among themselves, they form a sigma bond, okay. And if they are coming perpendicular to the axis like this, parallelly they are approaching each other, they result in the formation of pi bond. Understood? Are you able to visualize this? This is the sigma bond, head on overlapping. This is the pi bond, end on or sidewise overlapping, okay. Now depending on this, we will see what are the orbitals. Depending on this, we will see what are the orbitals which overlap to form sigma bond. Sigma bonds are basically formed by S overlap, SP overlap, PP overlap, okay. Sigma bonds are basically formed by SS overlap, SP overlap and PP overlap. Pi bonds are formed by P overlap, PD overlap and D overlap, okay. Another type of bond is also there called as the delta bond, which is basically a four lobe interaction How this will happen, we will see in the upcoming, like in this video only later on. So here first let us see how sigma bonds are formed. Imagine SS overlapping. Imagine two s orbitals. S orbitals are spherical in nature. So these are again my s orbitals. If they overlap like this, it is called sigma bond. They will only form one bond and they are symmetrically distributed. So there is only one possibility, they will only form sigma bonds, right? So SS overlapping results in the formation of sigma bond. They will be overlapping like this. Okay. Next is SP. So how will it be? This is our p orbital. This is the internuclear axis. Along the internuclear axis, the bonding will happen. So if whatever bond formation is having being formed along the internuclear axis, that is basically the sigma bond, and perpendicular to the internuclear axis, that is the pi bond. Okay. So here if one s orbital and the p orbital, they are overlapping along the axis, they result in the formation of sigma bond. And is there, can you visualize from these two like balloon structure, is there any possibility of pi overlapping or sidewise overlapping between them? Obviously not. Therefore SP, they do not form pi bond. SP only forms sigma bond, that is along the internuclear axis. Okay. Next is PP. I have shown you already. This is one p orbital, this is another p orbital. If I am bonding these two along the internuclear axis, this is resulting in the formation of a sigma bond. Along the internuclear axis, they will be forming a sigma bond. Okay. Now, if I see, okay, I will draw it. Suppose this is the s orbital, this is the p orbital, this is sp overlapping, and this is basically the PP overlapping. Okay. SS, SP, PP. Okay. This is sigma bond. Now let us discuss pi bonds. Forget it. So pi bond, PP overlapping perpendicular to the internuclear axis. So let's see how it will happen. Same. They will be perpendicular. This is suppose the internuclear axis among them. This is the internuclear axis, and along the internuclear axis, this like bonding will be happening perpendicular to the internuclear axis. So bonding will take place like this. Okay, there is sidewise overlapping, and it will look somewhat like this. Okay, so this is the pi or pi orbital between, or pi interaction between the pp orbital. Now if we try to visualize the p and d pi orbital interaction, this is the pi bond, sorry, this is the p orbital, and the d orbital has a double dumbbell structure, right? So one dumbbell, this interaction is kind of, give my drawing. So basically this interaction is a pi bond interaction between a p orbital and a d orbital. This will look somewhat like this. Now if we try to see the interaction between a d and a d orbital, okay, and another this interaction is called a pi interaction between a d and a d orbital. So the interaction or the d pi interaction between orbitals will look somewhat like this. Okay, so by now I guess you are clear about what is sigma bond and what is pi bond. So this is, pi bond is basically a two lobe interaction. Two lobe interaction. It is basically a single lobe interaction, and delta bond is a four lobe interaction. Let us see how this delta bond will look. Delta bond, a four lobe interaction. This basically you will be dealing with in transition metals as well as coordination chemistry. So for now let us just have a brief idea about what four lobe interaction actually is. So a d orbital is a double dumbbell, now simply I pick this orbital and put it upon this orbital. Imagine I am superimposing this, the red one, over the blue one. How it will look? This like this will overlap with this bond, this lobe will overlap with this lobe, then simultaneously here. So basically all the four lobes of the d orbital are overlapping over all the four lobes of the blue d orbital, right? So basically there is interaction between all the four lobes of both the orbitals. Therefore this interaction is called as a delta bond, although it is not that widely observed, but this is also a kind of bond possible which we will be dealing in depth in coordination chemistry, right? So for now, how many bonds we got to know about? One is sigma bond, which is formed along the internuclear axis, and I am taking the z axis as the internuclear axis. So if the bonding is happening along the z axis, this is known as head-on interaction, the head-on interaction, and it is called the sigma bond. If it is happening perpendicular to the internuclear axis, it is called the sidewise overlap or pi bond. Okay. So this is basically about the types of bonds and the postulates of BBT. In the next class we will be dealing about the actual structures of BBT and how actually the bondings are taking place. So for now, thank you so much.